All right, well, here we are for our last panel for GoSTEM, and I'm very excited to have, I'm hoping, I know you for so many years, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right still, and Genge. Did I say that right?
Genge sounds a little bit fancier the way you say it, so we go with either.
Okay, that, and then we have Nurefsan or Nefi Davulcu, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that one right too. So I'm super excited to have them both here with us. We're gonna start this panel by allowing our panelists to introduce themselves. So let's start with Anne. She's already unmuted. So Anne, if you want to introduce yourself, tell us a bit about who you are, where you work, what you do.
Sure. So Anne Genge, I work in privacy and cybersecurity, mostly in healthcare, and quite specialized to healthcare practices like your dentist, your doctor, physiotherapy, and I work in two capacities. One is I'm the co-founder of a company called Alexio Corporation, and we actually design and implement cybersecurity solutions for the networks for these types of medical healthcare type practices. But what I do most of my time is teaching, and I teach doctors, dentists, the assistants, nurses, how to work safely with our personal health information, which we know or is becoming more apparent in the last few years because of all the types of breaches in the world. It's important for us to have really good safeguarding of this type of information about each individual, because it's the type of details, especially as you get older, there's a lot of very sensitive stuff in our medical records. So my job is to teach all the people using them how to do that safely and keep us all much more secure.
Thank you, Anne. Nurefsan, I hope I'm saying that right. So please correct me.
Yeah, no, that's great. Actually, that's
okay.
Yeah. So I'm Nurefsan. My background is all in data and statistics, and I work as a data scientist now. So Shopify is actually my first time in the tech or software industry. I worked before more in the financial industry, and a bit in teaching as well. So I'm kind of new to this world in a way as well. And yeah, excited to share more about that.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to ask that we have like 3 different categories of questions to learn more about our panelists and about what you do and all the amazing stuff. And we're going to start with the early career. And I know everyone here is curious, as I am, about how did you decide to enter this career? And let's start with Anne again.
So my career has pretty much always been in healthcare, right from when I graduated university. But I started off in pharmaceuticals, so and medical devices, and my capacity there was to sell and train mostly dentists how to use different types of things for when you get the needle, when you get the freezing, or now if you hear about dental implants, different types of materials that are used in surgery. That's where I actually started. And I spent about the first half of my career working with these types of healthcare professionals, teaching them how to do surgeries with the types of products that I was selling. But what I noticed is around the year 2000, the medical profession was really embracing what is stuff that you're using every day, all day. We didn't have this back then. Everybody used paper. You had a medical chart. It was a file folder full of a bunch of paper, whereas now everything's in the computer, which again, some of you weren't even born when all of this transitioning was happening. But I became very interested in technology and how it was going to really transformed the healthcare industry, which indeed it definitely has. But fast forward to today, as much as we've made a lot of progress in how we utilize data, how we can diagnose, and how we can treat individuals, all of these types of advancements have also meant there are many more vectors of risk for where the bad guys can hack in and steal information and resell it for nefarious purposes, or extort money from a healthcare provider or even patients directly. So I became very interested in solving the problem of how we were going to keep all of the information safe. So I started in the medical industry, kind of went through sort of selling materials, but then moved into helping them get from paper into computerized records, and now even more focused specifically on keeping those records safe. But if you see me speaking anywhere else on the internet, there is a part that came right before that, and that was when I finished university. I needed to take a job, and actually my first job was selling graves, which is not very fun or glamorous. It was quite depressing. But luckily, I jumped into the medical field shortly thereafter. I thought it was better to work with people that were still alive. So that's how I got to where I am today.
Thank you, Anne. Okay, Nurefsan, how about you? How did you decide to enter your career?
Sure. So actually, when I started my studies, I just chose based on like a subject passion. I didn't even know what data science was when I entered university. I don't think, maybe now, in the next generation it will be different, but it's still a fairly new field in the grand scheme of things. So I chose to study math in my undergrad, and that's just because I just liked math, and I didn't really have many courses or knowledge in statistics until I got to university, and it kind of just transformed that way for me. So I liked the subject. I studied the subject. I realized, oh, it's a really employable subject. That's great. Like I just got like a bit lucky in that way. And my first like exposure to like data science and industry was my first internship, which was a lot of years ago now, like 6 years ago. I got enrolled in analytics, and I didn't really know what analytics was. I had no idea what I would actually be doing there. But I got into it. I liked it, and that's how it happened for me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. So when you started your career, did you have any role models? Well, even from growing up, did you have any role models growing up when you started your career? And if you don't mind, would you mind sharing who they were and why did you find them to be your role models? We can start with Nurefsan this time.
Yeah, sure. I'm thinking, I mean, just close around me, like my parents were always role models for me. As far as like in my early career, honestly, I'm not sure I had too many role models. I'm thinking if there's one person that guided me along the way, I didn't really have them, to be honest. I just found my support from family and friends, and for most of my career, I feel it was I had to create a network all myself. I didn't really have many connections in that way when I started. So
yeah, I don't think you're alone. There's a lot of people that are in the same area. So yeah, thanks for sharing. And how about you?
Well, ultimately in 2007, I went out on my own. So up until 2007, I was working within a corporate environment, and I did well there. I liked it, and there was a lot of people that really helped me, refine my career and help me climb in my career. When I left in 2007, I was the director of sales in my pharmaceutical company. which was pretty much as high as I could go there. And it was comfortable enough from sort of a professional and financial perspective, but I didn't really like the greed of the corporate world, which kind of sounds a bit funny because then you think that entrepreneurs have to be a bit greedy to go and want to build their own thing. But I left and started my own businesses for different reasons. One was I did it because I was a parent with a 1-year-old at that time, and I wanted to have much more flexibility. Although I had everything that I wanted financially, I didn't have a lot of time because I was always sort of beholden to the corporate world. So I became my getting into being an entrepreneur seemed kind of second nature because everybody in my family, my parents were entrepreneurs, my aunt and uncles were all entrepreneurs, and being that they were, had started their own businesses and done very well. So I saw them and I knew that I could do certain things because they had also. But I was a bit reluctant because it was pretty scary because I had to leave the security of a paycheck and then create my own whole new thing, which works today. And I have my second company now today, but it's 15 years later. And as my dad used to say, it takes a long time to become an overnight success. But they were definitely role models, I guess, the thing. I didn't have role models to steer me towards this sector, like cybersecurity necessarily. But I had a lot of good role models within my own family that you can start your own thing, you can do your own thing. It'll be really hard. It'll take a lot longer than you think, but that you can have that passion every day and do the right thing for everybody every day and build your business around your own core values. And that was very interesting to me. And so that's what I've done, following in their footsteps, basically, but without having seen others before me do it and do it successfully. I don't know that I would have. So
well, that's actually a really good point. I was gonna say, first of all, I don't think that there's a lot of women in cybersecurity to begin with. So to use as women as role models, so that would have been hard. And then, you did it anyways. And both of you have achieved some great success. I would like to think so anyways, despite the not having people that have done it before, or, your family could be great support system. Actually, that should be, everyone should have their, support system as their family. And I think for the most part, a lot of people do have that, because sometimes people in your family may not do what you actually want to do, but because if they support you to continue doing that, whatever that is, just because they're not doing it, or nobody in the family is doing it, you could be the first. So, hey, yay to both of you for being the first. So thank you for that. Now we can go back to your work day, like your current work. What does a typical day look like for you at your job? And let's start with you, Anne. If there is such thing as a typical day job.
Well, for me, I'm wearing a couple of different hats. I do want to backtrack just for a second, because these programs that you have put your heart and soul into for the last, as you just indicated, 9 years, which has gone so fast, are so important for the reason that you mentioned just sort of after the fact about cybersecurity having a lot of women. It doesn't have a lot of women, but I mean, in other times that I speak with your audience, I argue that there's lots of place for everybody, even arts students in cybersecurity. But the Hervolution program is so important. You're being a role model. You're bringing other role models in, and that's really important for STEM. So thank you for that. Not to take up too much time. My day, yes, I wear 2 hats. Basically, I only act as the Chief Financial Officer for Alexio Corporation now. So basically, I watch to make sure that enough money is made and kept and paid out in the right places. But on the Mila side of things, this is a fairly new business for me. This is all about education. So I do. I'm basically creating educational programs, both to be available to people online. Like I said, it's a lot of healthcare folks, but I also create customized training programs as well. So I'm either creating them or delivering them, and trying to do it in a lot of different ways, not just a narrated PowerPoint, but I get into working with different people, creating animations, a lot of different kinds of stories, narrated B-roll type stories as well. And that's basically it. So basically I'm a teacher and I teach cybersecurity to dental, medical, physio, chiro, all those types of little healthcare type providers that you would visit for different things in your life.
Thank you, Anne. Nurefsan, how about you? What is a day in the life of a data scientist?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can speak for my specific role now. So Shopify is 100% remote company. So I don't, have to start my day commuting somewhere or, yeah, that's all skipped basically. So I wake up and I eat, I get dressed, and I come to my little office space. That's taking some getting used to, that's more the remote work thing is really hyped up the last few years. And yeah, this is the first time I've had a completely the remote role. So there's that aspect. In the mornings, I tend to, I take a long time to kind of get settled for my day. So we use Slack at work. So I check on my Slack messages. I look at like my calendar for that day. Some of them are work meetings, some of them are more like social meetings that are optional. I try to plan like work times around the meetings. And that's typically what it looks like. So half the day, I guess I'm spending talking to people. The other half is me doing independent work. So that involves querying our database. So a lot of coding, summarizing results, replying to messages, and things like that.
And all the fun stuff. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I'm actually going to mention, I'm going to have 2 more questions for you, and then we're going to open up the floor for the audience. Perhaps our participants might have a couple of questions. We might be going over time, so please stay until the end because you're going to really love this. I'm sure the answers are going to be amazing. We want to inspire you. All right, so let's talk a little bit still about your current job. Like, what would be one or more things that actually really excite you about your work, and what would be 1 or 2 things that is very challenging about your job? So let's go with you, Anne.
Well, sadly, the reason my job exists and the reason I have so much job security is because cyber criminals are taking advantage of anybody and everybody that they can every single day. And if you just go looking for it a little bit, the word breach, you're going to see all sorts of stuff come through your feeds that are to do with governments being hacked, or your dentist being hacked, or a large company or a small company. It's a double-edged sword. It keeps it nice and spicy for me because it's always constantly changing. Social engineering is the way that these bad guys are tricking us, and there are some really interesting, unique tactics. I call cyber criminals the master storytellers. So all of the ways in which you are getting scammed, those are very interesting to me. And my job, I feel, is to find out about all of them, and then make as many people aware as possible that this sort of thing is going on, and how we're being tricked online, and then really help people in language that they understand, and hopefully without a lot of fear, be able to bulletproof themselves from these types of things. And some of them are so sophisticated and look so real. Some of these tactics that are being used, they can trick anybody, young or old. So I have plenty of those stories, and I won't insert them here in essence of time. But so I think it's I don't like the reason that I have to do what I do, but then I also like being able to be very good at it and really help people understand in language that that works for them.
Thank you. And I'm going to make a quick comment. I actually saw known Anne, she's been involved with Revolution for a couple of years. And when I get like a message, I send her a screenshot. Is this a scam? Should I just click? It's like, no, it's not. So she's really helping me a lot. So thanks, Anne. Nurefsan, the same question. What is the things that a couple of things are challenging, but also some things that are exciting about your job?
Yeah, sure. I'll start with the exciting. So I like with my role that I can answer questions in a very like exact, precise way, very analytically. There's not, I shouldn't say there's no guesswork. That's not true. We have to make a lot of assumptions in data science. That's just how it is. But I like that I'm able to answer things that way. Specific to Shopify, we have a very good data infrastructure here. So it's nice to work, if any other girls here decide to go into data science, it's nice to work for an organization that has that in place already. It's a lot of effort for a company to put that in place. And then when you have quality data and good data infrastructure, then you're able to do data science and draw business insights. Otherwise, you're not able to do it well. So that's something I really like at Shopify. And some challenges in general, I find it's really hard to explain data science and explain my role to other people. That's one thing I don't like as much. And also that it's really easy for your work to be taken out of context. So sometimes you do an analysis. This happened at work recently. An analysis was done, last year for a very specific context. And then this year, somebody used it, they generalized it, took it out of context to something else, tried to make a decision based off that. So that happens really often. Also in media, if you look at data science or anything related with data in media, it's really easy for it to be taken out of context. So that's a huge challenge.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to ask my last question, which is, do you have any advice for our participants that are looking to get into STEM? And if so, please share. Okay, and you are unmuted, so let's go with you.
Well, you know what, Doina, it was interesting because the first time that I went to the first conference, I'm thinking this was 2017.
Yeah.
When I first met you, I went to the first conference, and what I loved was you had this whole segment on STEAM, and I was like, what the heck is STEAM, right? But STEAM is STEM and inviting arts into it, right? Which basically, funny enough, I mean, that I would need at my age, need permission to be in this field. But I have a secret for everybody. I don't have a science degree. I have an arts degree. But what I loved about it gave permission to and for everyone to come in. And what I had been saying, and I think what had made me for a number of years quite unique in my industry was the fact that I had this arts background. And became a pretty good storyteller. So what was really missing, and it's still missing today, and I'm not going to be the only one for forever in my industry that can do this, but when you are very technical, you might not be able to be, everyday people might not understand you the same way. But when you are just technical enough to know, and then can take these complex pieces and then describe them to everyday people in layman's terms, because if you say cybersecurity, most people are just like, what? And they hear the word breach, or they hear the word hacking, or they hear the word data theft, and there's a paralysis that occurs. And those that are really good at coding and building the technologies they're not necessarily the best storytellers. We need them to build the technology. And then there's this other group of people that really know how to use the technology. They have to be a certain type. They're still not quite necessarily the best storytellers. But then you've got these other people over here. They understand what technology can do, and how technology can protect technology, funny enough. But they can bring the stories to the users. We're all users of technology, but so many of us don't understand and don't use it in a way that's safe, or we're not using it to the extent that we could if we just had somebody that really understood how to explain or teach certain things to us. This is why I like the concept of STEAM, because it says we're all welcome in STEM, and we need all types in STEM. We need the storytellers. We need the drama folks. We need the people that can write essays, as you know, because it's one thing to build it, but then people need to know how to use it. I still feel shy in the industry because I don't know how to do anything that they were doing earlier. That's why I can sit and marvel about it, because I don't know how to code. I know how to use the technology that code creates, and I know how to tell people how to use it to keep data safe. Yeah, so we need all types to come in. So that's my piece.
Everyone is welcome,
Yeah.
basically. Yes, thank you, Anne. Nurefsan, how about you? Any advice?
Yeah, I think my advice might be like more general, not specific to a STEM field, but yeah, I will say this just to bring realism to the situation. Like, it's being a STEM field is really difficult. You're gonna have a lot of rejection, and you're gonna have a lot of doubt along the way. And I think like still, like now it's getting better, you know, with gender balance, but always being in a more male dominated field, which I think STEM still is, it always brings more challenges. Sometimes those are, you know, hidden. They might not be, you might not even be aware of them, but they exist. So I just really like, I think I just really want to encourage the women, like, just to keep believing in yourself and keep persisting, because you are going to have a lot of rejection, and you're going to have a lot of challenges emotionally, I think, along the way. So that's my advice.
This is all great advice. Any of you participants do have any questions for our panelists? I know we're over time, recognize that. So feel free to unmute yourself or just add that to chat so that we can ask our questions if you have any, or you can just raise your hand. Anyone going once?
You know what? She's very right, by the way. You know, but here's what I've noticed over the years. I've got many more of them than most of these people there. Just keep doing it anyway. I call resilience a toolkit, and the only way to build it is by keeping, you know, facing it, going. It's going to be terrorizing every single time, but it gets a little easier each time. And they are, and you are going to see that. I co-own my own company with my brother, and I was actually the CEO for the first 10 years. And men would just talk to him, and he'd keep saying, no, she's the boss, but they'd keep looking at him when they were talking. Right?
Yeah.
And I didn't really notice so much. It took a few times, right? But yeah, it is a very tough field. But what you'll notice is the more you just keep pushing and ignoring that noise, I think, you know, you get there. You get there.
Yeah.
But
that's
yeah,
actually, yeah. Thank you, Anne. We have Aisha here. She would like to ask a question.
Hi. Yeah, I think my question is a little bit similar to one that was asked, but I just wanted to ask, and this is kind of what I've been asking a lot of my seniors and people who have reached the point in life where I want to go. So I would say, knowing your struggles, knowing your journey and where you are in life right now, what advice would you give to yourself when you're starting out, let's say college? I know I'm super interested in cybersecurity and I've read a little bit about data science, but yeah, it's very competitive.
I came into cyber many years after I had finished university. But if I look back to those years, I think I was, even probably until I was almost 30, to be honest, was doing what I thought everyone else wanted me to do. It's a couple of things. One is, you're supposed to achieve this and climb the ladder and make more money and get a higher position. But I can also see it in cyber. There's naysayers. There's, well, even these kinds of conversations, I think, have the possibilities of scaring, especially women, right? Like what she said earlier is true. It is harder for us, I think. It's harder to be taken seriously. I've been in a medical clinic before when an older gentleman came by and took a drill out of my hand because he didn't think I knew how to use it. Those types of things are going to happen, and they do have the possibility of shrinking you. Yeah, I think it might be mostly about just following your instincts. I think we need to trust our own instincts and trust ourselves. Yes, it's important to make money, but if we're good enough at just about anything, the passion is important. We can't just do something that someone else wants us to do. If this is where our passion is, probably especially the girls that are on here for sure are going to be good at it. But it's very easy to be distracted by what others think we should do. Our family, our parents. If you come from a family full of doctors and then you say you want to go and be cybersecurity, it's like, oh, I thought you were going to be a doctor. Yeah, following your own instincts, because I think at the end of the day, especially if you decide to become an entrepreneur, you're going to need that passion. There's going to be so many moments where you're going to need that passion and that's not something that someone can teach. There's a lot of skills that you can teach, but you can't teach personality, you can't teach drive, you can't teach passion. Those are all things that you need to have there. So that's the jet fuel that's going to get you to the next level when everything is really hard. Those are the things, those are the traits, those are the ingredients that you're going to need at that point. So if you're following your own instincts, you're probably going to have a better chance, I think.
Thank you. And Nurefsan, do you have any advice or any, sorry, answer to the question that you should just put there?
Yeah, sure. So again, I feel like my advice is a bit general for this, but I know when I was at that age, like I picture like when I just started university, I feel like with some things I just took life way too seriously. And what I mean by that is like small, failures, small just ups and downs could, it could feel like, oh, it's the end of the world, right? But over time, when more of those happen, you start to realize that most things, right, it's not the end of the world. And I would just encourage, I know it's hard, to have that mentality of like just believing like that you can get through something, and you probably will. Time goes on, life goes on. Most things are not a big deal years on after years. And just to also enjoy your youth, like it's work hard, but they're really nice years, being like 18 or 19, like, and even my age now, I just really just try to also enjoy your youth and value like your relationships and other aspects of life that are not just career. It's really important to have a balance. Really my advice.
I'm going to add to that, actually. It's being that I have been doing Revolution for 9 years, and I've seen so many participants and some people that I talk to, even before they join, or they probably don't even join any of our programs. It's like, I always say that when you're young, you don't have to pay bills. So whatever you try and test, like any programs that come your way that you think you might be interested in going for, go ahead and do it, because now will help you realize what you want to do for the rest of your life, if that might be the case. Because when you get older and you think, like Nurefsan was saying, that you're taking things so seriously, and then you get to the stage where you realize that's not what I want to do. That's because somebody has probably imposed that on me. It's going to be harder for you when you're older to go back and change things, because you have bills to pay, might have children. And I know in my case, I've had kids, I was into Canada, there were so many things. So it's like, explore as many things as you can now, and do it add fun to it. Don't take it as like, this is it. If I'm not going to get this right, this is going to be the end of the world. No, this is your opportunity to figure it out, whether this might be something that you like or not, and go in it with open mind, and not have any expectations, whether that you might like it or you might not like it, and just, keep your mind open. And because trust me when I say, when you are older and you have to pay bills, it's hard to do things that are your passion if you haven't already done it. Not saying that it's impossible, because a lot of things are possible. I'm just saying, just probably harder, and you might want to give up.
Yeah, I like that. I'm glad that both of you just said that, because it's a good reminder to me also. And I would say, if you had asked me the question about regret, it would be that I did what everyone else thought I should do, that I followed the money and didn't follow my heart enough. So I had lots of money, but I was miserable for a lot of years. And then I took it, and now I'm great. I probably should take more work-life balance at times too. But I think I wish someone else had said this. I wish I had been sitting here 30 years ago and took that to heart. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, we are pretty over time, and I want to respect everyone's time. Our speakers, I want to say thank you so much for being here. This is the end of our, I'm like getting goosebumps, and I'm not gonna cry again. So this is the end of our GoSTEM program for 2022. This is the 8th year that we're running this program, and I'm really happy and proud of how far we've come, and the fact that we get to reach now participants from across Ontario, which is super amazing. And I want to say thank you to you participants. Thank you to you speakers for being here and closing our program this year. And I hope you all are having an amazing summer. So thank you. Okay, we can stop recording now.